Meghan Markle is trying to ignite her failing brand as ever, and she has come across what I'm sure she feels like is a gangbuster idea, which is matches. Yes, oh yes, Meghan Markle is hoping literal fire helps her sell her failing brand as ever.
Again on these matches. And she feels she's found the source or manufacturer of Meghan's...
Oh, really?
Of her products before, and the matches, which you'll see, it looks like it's pretty obvious. She's used these people before.
Because don't forget about me. Look what I'm doing. I'm doing that too. Here's what I think. Yeah. Aren't I cute? I'm just adorable. Watch me put this stuff on here.
She thought that she was creating a situation where she would be win-win and the royal family would be lose-lose.
However, I don't think this is going to work, just like everything else hasn't worked. And we even already have a blunder for this latest offerings, ladies and gentlemen.
After turning her back on royal life, the palace walls, and everything that came with that world, she has now revealed what appears to be the latest chapter of her business journey, and it has left a lot of people scratching their heads. This week, attention exploded around a product launch that many never saw coming. A simple box of matches carrying her brand logo, attached to a price point that instantly sparked debate online. And believe it or not, the price isn't even the most surprising part of this entire situation. What followed turned a small product release into a much bigger conversation about branding, marketing, and whether anyone behind the scenes is actually paying attention to the details. Like so many of her recent projects, it all began with a carefully styled Instagram post. The image looked polished and deliberate, featuring a softly lit candle resting on a mantelpiece, flowers arranged nearby, a teapot placed just so.
You get 4 candles and that matchbox.
You can't buy one candle separately?
Well, you can't, but that's how,
she's
incentivizing
you can buy the signature scent collection.
I think Meghan Markle is completely devoid of any ideas. And this is just the latest example in a long line of them. So guys, we are going to go over this today and some of the broader implications for, I think, the future of this company, because something I wrote last year is actually becoming ever more true by the day.
And positioned prominently in the frame was a fresh box of matches branded with the As Ever logo. The photo carried that familiar lifestyle aesthetic, designed to look effortless, while clearly being planned down to the smallest detail. Everything appeared calm, elegant, and curated. Yet within hours, people were talking less about the atmosphere and more about the product itself. The caption underneath seemed simple enough. It read, "A small spark arriving tomorrow." Sounds straightforward, right? Except there was one problem. By the time followers started searching for more information, the matches were already available for purchase on her website. The launch had apparently happened before the announced launch date. So after teasing something that was supposedly arriving tomorrow, customers discovered it had quietly arrived today. For many observers, it was a confusing rollout that immediately raised questions. Was it intentional? Was it a mistake? Or was it another example of a brand struggling to coordinate its own releases? The reaction was swift because people expect a certain level of planning from a premium lifestyle company. Instead, critics argued that the whole situation felt strangely overproduced for what was essentially a box of matches. Product teasers are typically reserved for major releases, exciting innovations, or highly anticipated collections.
This brand is not doing well, and the woman in charge of it just seems to lack any notion of any sort of idea. Because as the brand doesn't sell, her solution to the problem, you could say, is, well, I have candles. We need matches. Yes, oh yes. Guys, believe it or not, it took me forever to click this thing to get this to work earlier. But we have matches. And to be fair, Meghan Markle is following something I had previously suggested, which is that, in order to sell stubborn inventory that's not selling, sometimes it's a fairly good idea to offer something free with it. And I believe that's what's happening here.
But matches. Many commenters couldn't understand why something so ordinary was being marketed like a blockbuster event. You don't usually build suspense around a household item people can find almost anywhere. You simply make it available and move on. The fact that such a basic product received a dramatic build-up led many online to wonder whether the brand was running short on fresh ideas and relying heavily on presentation to create excitement. But that wasn't the detail that truly stopped people in their tracks. The real discussion started once shoppers connected the matches to the candles being sold alongside them. According to many online observers, the matches were being promoted as the ideal companion product for her candle collection. On the surface, that sounds completely reasonable. Candles and matches naturally go together, yet critics quickly pointed out something they considered difficult to ignore. They claimed the candles themselves lacked traditional wicks, leading to a wave of confusion across social media. If customers were being encouraged to purchase matches to accompany candles,
but you pay full price for every candle, right?
Guess how much 4 candles in that matchbox is?
The candles are like $50 each, aren't they? So I don't know, $212.
I'm going to say $231.
$256. For 4 fucking candles and those matches.
Who would buy these? I seriously can't imagine who would buy these unless you just were crazy about this idiot.
And then there's the drop she put out today. Remember, she teased it. There it is, right there.
And you could buy 2 candles and the matches for $128, exactly half of the
Who would
4
do that?
candles.
Who would buy those? And I agree with her. If she finds out the candle or the matches are sold out, then you know it's BS. And that when she was saying, "Oh my God, sold out in 10 minutes," that couldn't have been more than just 100 or something. There's no way.
that couldn't be lit in the usual way. People wanted answers. Suddenly, what should have been a simple accessory became the center of a much larger debate. Once followers noticed that issue, the conversation escalated rapidly. Forums, comment sections, and social media accounts began dissecting every detail. Many people weren't just questioning the matches anymore. They started questioning the entire product strategy behind the brand. The logic was straightforward. If such an obvious concern slipped through the cracks, what other details might have been overlooked? The curiosity quickly transformed into scrutiny, and scrutiny soon turned into criticism. Then came the pricing discussion, and that's where the mood changed dramatically. A single candle carried a price tag of $64. For shoppers accustomed to luxury brands, that might not seem completely unheard of. But once people started adding up the numbers, reactions intensified. Purchase 4 candles, include the matches.
But what's interesting to consider as well is I think this reflects how poorly the brand overall is doing. Because Meghan Markle thinks that signature candles based on herself, her marriage, and her children are going to sell to the broader public. And she thinks now if the matches are offered individually, she thinks, let's say, offering those matches individually is going to get people to buy some as well, though I'm sure she's going to stock much fewer of those and much, much more in this signature scent collection to get this collection to move. And this is just such a bare bones basic idea. She is treating this matches, something you can get for cents, like 50 cents, 25 cents. She's offering matches as like sort of a huge look at me style item. Now, if I refresh this page, is this still here? I guess it is, but this, guys, is actually supposed to go live tomorrow. A small spark arriving tomorrow. It's not tomorrow, Megan. So this was posted 5 hours ago. And as of now, it's on your website already. So I believe there should be more time between that, like a full maybe 24 hours. Because she even has, let's see, back on stories here.
And the total reaches $256 before taxes and shipping. Costs are even factored in. For many consumers, that's a serious amount of money to spend on candles and a branded box of matches. Critics argued that the pricing felt disconnected from what average shoppers would consider reasonable, especially during a time when many households are paying close attention to everyday expenses. the matches themselves became another target of discussion. They were reportedly presented as a complimentary addition with certain purchases, which sounded generous at first glance. But some consumers weren't impressed. They argued that offering a low-cost item as a bonus didn't significantly offset the high overall price of the products being purchased. Instead, they viewed it as a marketing tactic designed to make the bundle feel more valuable than it actually was. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, it certainly gained traction online. And then someone spotted something that made the pricing conversation even louder. Buyers comparing bundle options noticed what appeared to be a strange structure. 2 candles plus matches totaled $128. 4 candles plus matches totaled $256. The math immediately caught people's attention because there seemed to be no added incentive for buying more at once. In many retail situations, larger purchases come with discounts, bonus items, or some form of reward. Here, critics argued that customers weren't receiving any meaningful advantage for choosing the larger package. In fact, some pointed out that purchasing the smaller bundle twice could potentially provide additional matchboxes while costing the exact same amount overall. That observation spread quickly because it was easy for people to understand. Suddenly, discussions weren't focused on luxury branding anymore. They were focused on basic pricing logic. Commenters joked that even first-time entrepreneurs running small neighborhood businesses would have recognized the issue immediately. Whether exaggerated or not, those comments reflected growing frustration among critics who felt the pricing structure lacked strategic thinking. Another question began appearing everywhere. Who exactly is supposed to buy this product? Not casually, but seriously. People started imagining the target customer. Was it someone browsing online for practical household items? Probably not. Was it someone comparing value between competing candle brands? Maybe not that either. Many concluded that the most likely buyers would be devoted supporters already invested in the brand and willing to purchase nearly anything associated with it. That perception created another wave of criticism because it suggested the products were aimed less at attracting new customers and more at maximizing spending from existing loyal followers. For some observers, that was the most troubling part of all. Successful brands typically focus on expanding their audience, building trust, and encouraging new consumers to give them a chance. Critics argued that this launch felt different. They claimed it appeared designed primarily for dedicated supporters who were unlikely to question the value proposition. Whether that assessment is accurate or not, it became one of the dominant narratives surrounding the release. And then the sourcing conversation arrived. And that's where things became genuinely uncomfortable for the brand. Online researchers and product trackers began investigating where the matches might have originated. As more discussions surfaced, claims emerged suggesting similar products could potentially be sourced through wholesale suppliers offering bulk quantities at extremely low costs. That discovery immediately fueled another round of criticism. If the underlying product was inexpensive and widely available, people wanted to know what justified the luxury positioning and premium branding. The debate intensified further as screenshots, supplier comparisons, and product analyses started circulating online. Critics argued that placing a logo on a standard product doesn't automatically transform it into a luxury experience. Supporters pushed back, insisting that branding, presentation, and customer experience all contribute to value. The disagreement became increasingly heated as both sides dug in. But among all the arguments, one particular detail continued gaining momentum and triggering reactions across social media platforms. And that's the detail that really sent people into overdrive, because once they started looking deeper into where these matches may have come from and how they were being positioned to customers, an entirely new set of questions began surfacing. And those questions only made the controversy surrounding the launch even harder to ignore. When you actually break down what's being sold here, it starts looking even more confusing than before, because these matches aren't even really matching the purpose people assumed at first glance. the design being pushed into the spotlight aligns more with long cigar-style matches, the kind you'd normally see used for lighting cigars or fireplaces, not something meant for a decorative candle sitting quietly on a shelf. So the situation gets even more awkward when you realize a brand is selling matches supposedly meant for candles that may not even function in the usual way. Yet the product itself doesn't match the use case it's being attached to in the marketing narrative. And then things take another turn, because viewers started zooming into the promotional photo like it was evidence in a case file, counting every detail with intense focus. A standard box is expected to hold around 12 matches, but people claimed her image showed only 11 inside the box, one allegedly missing. That tiny detail instantly sparked a wave of theories online. Maybe one was used for the aesthetic shot. Maybe it was removed for styling, or, according to a louder theory circulating fast, someone suggested the box might have been deliberately reduced by one match to stretch inventory further across shipments. Is that actually what happened? No one can confirm it. But what shocked people more was how quickly her own audience believed the possibility without hesitation. And that alone says a lot about the level of trust being discussed right now. So the real question started forming in the background. Why would a brand cut corners so tightly on something being sold at such a high price point? And just as that question hangs in the air, the deeper explanation starts to surface. And it's not what most people expected at all. Then a completely different issue entered the conversation. And it's one that many people believe should have been obvious from the very beginning. Matches aren't harmless pantry items like jam or honey that you just ship casually without concern. They are classified as hazardous materials, and that classification changes everything about how they must be handled and transported. Several viewers, especially those familiar with logistics and shipping regulations, pointed out what they believe was a major oversight. You can't simply place flammable matches into packaging and send them worldwide like a regular candle order. They often require restricted handling, sometimes ground transport only, along with specific labeling and safety measures, because friction, heat, and altitude can create real risks during transit. That instantly introduces extra costs, compliance steps, and packaging requirements that can eat into profit margins far more than people realize. And that's where the conversation starts shifting again, because now people are asking how something like this could be missed before launch. A properly structured business is expected to clear these hurdles early, not after the product is already live on a website. So critics began questioning how a brand tied to such high-profile backing could overlook something so fundamental. You don't accidentally list a regulated fire hazard a full day ahead of schedule without someone catching it first. That's where speculation grows even louder, because people start connecting it to internal changes behind the scenes. The idea being discussed is simple but pointed. If experienced teams are no longer involved in the process, mistakes like this suddenly become much more likely to slip through. And that's the angle people can't stop circling back to, because it reframes the entire situation in a very different light. Now, the story shifts into the background structure of the business itself, and that's where things become even more revealing. Earlier in the year, reports circulated that Netflix had quietly stepped back from its involvement with the As Ever brand. That platform had originally provided massive visibility, infrastructure, and global reach, essentially a powerful launch engine for any product line. But according to reports, that support structure was no longer part of the picture. Even more telling, leftover inventory and assets were reportedly returned, leaving the brand operating in a very different position than before. And what stood out to observers was that Netflix had never actually placed these products in its own retail ecosystem, despite having the distribution capability to do so. That decision raised eyebrows because it suggested a level of hesitation or lack of long-term confidence that people are now reinterpreting in hindsight. So when you put all of that together, the picture starts to look very different. A brand now operating independently, dealing with inventory that appears to move slowly, and still carrying older seasonal stock that hasn't cleared. items meant for specific holidays are still visible months later, sitting on the site long after their moment has passed. Even seasonal kits designed for winter-themed products are still listed during warmer months, creating a sense of backlog rather than momentum. And in that context, the matches start to look less like a standalone idea and more like a strategy move, a small, inexpensive add-on designed to push larger, high-ticket items out the door before they linger too long in storage. That's the theory gaining traction. Not innovation, but inventory movement disguised as lifestyle branding. And as all of this builds, the tone of the conversation online becomes sharper, more skeptical, and increasingly focused on what's actually happening behind the scenes, rather than what's being presented on the surface. Look, if you're as gripped by this slow-motion unraveling as many viewers seem to be right now, there's one more layer to consider that pulls everything even deeper into question. And it connects directly to how far this whole situation might actually go once people stop looking at the packaging and start looking at the structure holding it all together. Before anything else, go ahead and tap that subscribe button if you haven't already. Free, fast, and it's what keeps this channel digging into the parts of the story that polished outlets usually avoid completely. Now back into it, because the reason this whole situation feels like it's accelerating suddenly is something people have started piecing together from multiple angles. And when you connect those dots, it starts painting a much bigger picture than just candles and matches. For years, critics argue this entire public lifestyle has been fueled by external support systems rather than independent financial footing. Private jets reportedly borrowed from wealthy acquaintances, luxury stays allegedly covered by high-profile friends, and widely circulated claims of millions in financial assistance from Tyler Perry when they first relocated to California without stable housing. All of these details have been repeatedly referenced in online discussions and commentary spaces. Whether every claim is interpreted fairly or not, the narrative people focus on is a long stretch of dependency on surrounding wealth rather than self-sustained enterprise. But that kind of environment doesn't last forever. Over time, connections shift, priorities change, and the people who once opened doors quietly step back into their own lives. Invitations become less frequent. Support networks thin out, and the sense of constant access to luxury and convenience begins to fade. And when a lifestyle has been built around that kind of structure, the moment those external supports start disappearing, the pressure to generate real independent income becomes far more intense than what the public usually sees. That's where critics say the current behavior starts to make more sense. When outside support weakens, every business decision suddenly carries more weight, every launch becomes more urgent, and even small products start to look like revenue tools rather than creative expressions. So when people see something as simple as branded matches positioned as a premium product, they begin asking whether these launches are really about branding or about keeping cash flow moving. And that leads straight back to one of the most heavily discussed narratives around this brand, the instant sellout era. For a long time, headlines suggested explosive demand, products disappearing in minutes, collections vanishing almost instantly, and overwhelming interest that couldn't be kept up with. On the surface, that looked like unstoppable success and massive consumer appetite. But once people started digging into actual quantities, a different explanation began circulating. If you only release a very small number of items, then of course they will sell out quickly, regardless of broader demand. Critics argue that this creates the appearance of hype without necessarily proving a long-term market strength. That's what they call manufactured scarcity, controlling supply in a way that shapes perception rather than reflecting true demand. And here's where the twist comes in. Some believe that strategy may have backfired over time. Instead of pulling more people in, repeated sold-out messaging may have pushed casual shoppers away entirely. If something is always unavailable, many potential buyers simply stop trying. So instead of building momentum, it may have slowly reduced curiosity and broadened the gap between hype and actual sales consistency. Meanwhile, attention has also turned to the physical products themselves, and the Matchbox in particular has been heavily criticized online. Some viewers described it as plain, muted, and lacking the visual impact expected from something marketed as part of a luxury lifestyle brand. Instead of feeling elevated, critics said it resembled basic, everyday packaging, something closer to generic office supplies than a premium collectible item. And then came another small but widely shared observation: branding consistency. People pointed out that even after rebranding, certain design choices still appeared inconsistent, including typography details like capitalization not always being applied uniformly across the brand identity. One example repeatedly mentioned was the styling of "as ever," where the lettering appeared inconsistent depending on where it was shown. To some, it felt like a minor detail, but to others, it symbolized a larger issue: lack of refinement in a space where precision is expected. But the strongest reactions didn't come from critics. They came from customers who actually bought the products. Reviews began circulating, describing fruit spreads as thinner or more watery than expected, especially given the price point. And when paying customers become the ones raising the most concern, it shifts the conversation entirely. At that point, it's no longer just online speculation. It becomes direct feedback from the market itself. That's where the bigger pattern starts to emerge. Looking across the releases this year, people noticed a series of small lifestyle-focused products. A leather bookmark that originally started as a promotional item, later reintroduced as a standalone product, followed by variations of similar simple goods, and then matches. To critics, the pattern doesn't show clear category direction or long-term identity. It shows experimentation without a defined core, and that leads into the deeper criticism that the entire brand is inseparable from personal identity. Supporters may see that as storytelling and authenticity, but critics argue it creates structural weakness. Because when every product is tied to personal milestones, personal life, or personal symbolism, the brand becomes dependent on the individual behind it. And in business terms, that makes scalability harder and long-term independence more fragile. That perspective is often reinforced by how closely attention seems to track public moments. When unrelated cultural or media moments trend, some observers claim promotional activity appears to respond quickly, almost mirroring those conversations in real time. Critics describe it as reactive branding, always adjusting, always responding, never fully setting the tone independently. At the same time, the reaction from online audiences has become more layered. Some defend the brand, saying early-stage companies naturally go through identity shifts and experimentation. Others argue the inconsistency is too persistent to ignore. And as more releases appear, the same debates keep resurfacing, just louder each time. Even humor has entered the conversation, with some users joking that the inconsistency must be intentional because no established team could realistically miss so many basic branding and product alignment details. Whether meant seriously or sarcastically, those comments reflect how deeply the discussion has entered mainstream online commentary spaces. Then there's the emotional layer critics bring in as well, pointing to timing and context around certain product themes. Some argue that releasing fire-related novelty items in environments recently affected by real wildfire disasters feels poorly timed, regardless of intent. Others push back, saying it's unrelated or over-interpreted. But the conversation itself highlights how quickly context can reshape perception of even the simplest product. Still, when everything is pulled back, the pricing debates, the design critiques, the sourcing speculation, and the branding questions, the overall image people describe is a brand still searching for stable identity while trying to maintain attention in a fast-moving digital space. And that leaves the final takeaway split in two directions. Some see a brand still experimenting and refining its voice. Others see a structure built too heavily on personality-driven appeal to sustain long-term independence. Either way, the conversation continues to grow, and every new release seems to add another layer instead of closing the debate. If you followed this far, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this as the story continues to unfold and new details keep surfacing. Because this conversation clearly isn't slowing down anytime soon.